Hello friends, welcome back to the lecture. Let us continue from where we left off. Let us focus on type of oxidation reactions in daily life so that you also get a practical feel that why are we focusing so much on oxidation reactions and what are the implications. So the first type of oxidation reaction which we will be looking at is corrosion. Now corrosion is a phenomena that affects or damages a lot of metals around us, be it iron, be it copper, or be it silver. So let us start with iron. As already said, that corrosion is an oxidation reaction. So you can see here in the first reaction, iron is losing 2 electrons. And then the product of corrosion, whether you will get Fe plus 2 or you will get Fe plus 3 as a product of corrosion, will depend on the environment. So this is the reaction which generally happens when you have limited oxygen. And the second reaction mostly happens when you have excess dissolved oxygen. And finally, the electrons released by iron are taken up by oxygen to form hydroxides. So, like I already said, corrosion products formation is based on availability of water and oxygen. If you have limited dissolved oxygen, the predominant compounds would be Fe plus 2, like FeO, FeOH whole twice, or magnetite. In case you have high oxygen concentration, then the rust or the product of corrosion will be mostly Fe plus 3, ferric hydroxide, FeOOH, Fe2O3, or hematite. How can we prevent corrosion? So there are several ways we can reduce the rate of corrosion, we can prevent the corrosion, we can delay the events of corrosion. So what can be done? So first thing is alloying. We can alloy, for example, stainless steel with chromium. So whenever the stainless steel is exposed to the conditions of corrosion, there will be a passive layer of chromium 3 oxide on stainless steel, which will prevent the underlying steel from getting corroded further. This is the principle for alloying. And secondly, we can also coat the metal with zinc in this case our metal is iron. So if you have more corrosive environment, for example seawater, where you also have dissolved NaCl, this zinc electroplating or plating by zinc is not sufficient. We have to go for cadmium plating. Then the most common method is cathodic protection, or in other words, this is also called putting up a sacrificial anode. So by sacrificial anode, what I mean is you put another metal which is more reactive than iron, and this metal itself gets corroded. So this metal is sacrificing itself to protect the iron. So that is why the word sacrificial anode has come. So I would like you to recollect our reactivity series, and maybe you can logically guess that what should be the most important characteristic of sacrificial anode. So if you look back at the reactivity series here, we have iron here. And if we want to prevent corrosion of iron or oxidation of iron, we have to choose a metal which is above iron in reactivity series. Means it has to be more electropositive or more reactive than iron. So we can choose something like zinc or manganese or even magnesium. So when we put a small piece of magnesium uh, in contact with iron, so whenever there is a chance of oxidation, for example this reaction, so magnesium being more electropositive will lose electron first, and thus it will prevent the underlying iron. So that is the whole concept of sacrificial anode. So, so any electropositive metal can be used, but more electropositive than iron, and that metal itself will be corroded or consumed over the time, and the iron will be safe. Coming to more ways, there of course you can do some coatings and paintings which will isolate the metal itself from the corrosive environment. You can also add some corrosion inhibitors which will slow down the rate of reaction of corrosion. Finally, if you are in a very high humidity environment, for example sea, where the relative humidities are much more than what normally exists, you can use silica gel packets. So you know silica is a desiccant, it will absorb all the moisture and it will reduce the rate of corrosion. Coming to the second most common type of corrosion, again it's a type of oxidation reaction, is copper. So you can see this green color layer forming on copper. So what exactly is this layer? What is the reason for this layer? So copper also undergoes corrosion in different media, and the products formed would be different. For example, in water, copper will predominantly form copper plus ions. and in presence of oxygen, this would be the, so in both case, the oxidation state of copper is plus 1, and the predominant compound form is Cu2O. So if you have only water and there is no oxygen, then also there is a chance that copper will corrode. And in case you have sufficient oxygen, then the predominant product would be Cu2O. In case you also have carbon dioxide and moisture in the surrounding of copper, then you will get a compound like copper hydroxide dot copper carbonate. So this entire compound is responsible for the green coating that you are seeing on this image on the right hand side. Coming to tarnishing of silver, so if you would have seen silverware or cutlery at your home, if you expose it to atmospheric condition for very long times, it tends to turn black. So you can see over the time how the silver is turning black. So what exactly is happening here? So mostly silver, this compound, this black compound is nothing but this is silver sulfide. And when you eat food which has sulfur in it, for example, egg, mayonnaise or mustard, which are high in sulfur, the H2S from these compounds react with silver to form Ag2S, and this Ag2S is nothing but this black coating what you are seeing. But luckily this reaction is reversible. What you can do is you can put it in aluminum foil in presence of baking soda, and the reverse reaction happens. So you can see silver sulfide, which is formed from first reaction, it's reacting with aluminum in presence of baking soda to give back the silver metal, and itself it will form a layer of aluminum sulfide. So I think you can recognize these type of reactions. This is nothing but it's a displacement reaction. So aluminum is displacing silver sulfide, and itself it's forming aluminum sulfide. Aluminium, now coming to corrosion of aluminium. Aluminium has natural protection against corrosion. So whenever there is oxygen and little bit moisture in the atmosphere, aluminium will form a passive layer of Al2O3, and this is what it looks like. So this is the underlying metal, and whenever it is exposed to oxygen, the passive layer of Al2O3 develops on the base metal, and it further prevents the corrosion. So resistance, it only gives a resistance against corrosion. It does not mean that aluminium will never corrode. Under normal conditions, where most of the metals will corrode quickly, aluminium will not corrode at that rate. That is the only intention here. It's similar to alloying with chromium. When we were putting chromium in stainless steel, chromium was forming a passive layer of chromium oxide. Similarly here, the aluminium, the metal itself forms a passive layer on top of the pure metal, and it prevents the further. Okay, so now coming to other type of oxidation reactions, rancidity. So rancidity is a term which is frequently used for fats and oils, and the result or the reason for rancidity is complete or incomplete oxidation or hydrolysis of fats and oils when it is exposed to air, light or moisture. It is primarily due to bacterial action, and it results in unpleasant taste and odor. So there are basically two mechanisms of rancidity. First is hydrolysis. So triglyceride is a compound present in natural fat, and when there is a breakage or dissociation of triglyceride in presence of water to form free fatty acids and glycerol, this leads to rancidity. Second mechanism is oxidation. So oxidation at the double bond of the unsaturated glycerides may form peroxides, which then decompose by hydrolysis to form aldehydes and ketones, resulting in objectionable odor and taste. So these are two basic mechanisms why a fat or oil can go rancid. These are just some facts. So it has been observed that highly refined fats and distilled fatty acids are their esters. They begin to absorb atmospheric oxygen almost immediately upon exposure. Whereas natural fats, they exhibit induction period of variable duration before oxidation begins. The message here is highly refined fats like refined oils, they are more prone to rancidity when compared to natural fats. How can we prevent this rancidity? We can add some antioxidants. So tocopherol is a very common natural antioxidant present in plant and animal tissues. There are other chemical antioxidants also. So propyl gallate, isoamyl gallate, BHT, BHA. So all these compounds we will be revisiting when we start organic chemistry for class 12th. So because these compounds are also industrially very important and these take part in several organic reactions. So we should be aware about this. So right now I am just introducing this concept to you so that when in class 12th we say terms like BST and BHA, it should not sound Greek. So you should be aware about these substances that okay, BHA, BHT and propyl gallate, these are some of the antioxidants and they are used to prevent rancidity. So other methods would be to keep an airtight container, inert atmosphere of nitrogen gas so that there is no oxygen available to interact with the fat. Then third mechanism for rancidity would be microbial activity. So bacteria or fungus, molds, such type of microbes can destroy the quality of fat. So whatever we have written there, I would like to show some examples. Don't get afraid if you see such large structures. These are nothing. So we will learn about these when we start doing organic chemistry. So just to give you an example of hydrolytic rancidity. So you can see in presence of water, an enzyme. So this is a catalyst here. So triacyl glycerol, it is broken down into a free fatty acid and a glycerol molecule. So this leads to bad odor. Similarly, coming to oxidative rancidity, you can see there is a hydroxide peroxide radical which has initiated. So this radical will take away this hydrogen and it will form water, and water will leave this reaction and leading to formation of a lipid radical. Now this will react with oxygen leading to formation of peroxide. This is exactly what we had written in that text. So just two mechanisms how rancidity can happen. So some of the antioxidants that we discussed. So this is BHA, this is propyl gallate, and this is propyrogallol, this is TBHQ. So all these compounds you must have seen in your organic chemistry. Maybe you are not aware that okay, these are the names of these compounds, but these are pretty important compounds and these are used as antioxidants in fats. Okay, so with this we come to the end of first chapter, chemical reactions and equations. So we will just highlight, or I will just summarize what have we covered so far in this chapter. So first is we went through different chemical reactions, chemical equations and balancing, types of chemical reactions, combination, decomposition, displacement, double displacement, oxidation, reduction, redox, endothermic, exothermic. Then we also saw some practical oxidation reactions like corrosion in iron, copper, aluminium, tarnishing of silver, how to prevent corrosion and tarnishing, and finally rancidity. We also did some homework problems. Some problems were given to you as homework, some we discussed in the class, or most of these problems were highlighted in amber color. We also did some advanced topics which were beyond the scope of class 9th or 10th, like redox reactions, what is reactivity series, in-depth oxidation reaction, and then finally corrosion and rancidity. So typically corrosion and rancidity, these are advanced topics in oxidation chemistry. So with this, I would like to end my lecture here. And in the next lecture, we will go into details about acid, bases, and salts. Thank you for watching.